Hi everyone and welcome back or to my channel. I'm Ashley and in today's video it's going to be pretty much on the same tone of every other video, which is just me sharing some recent things that I've been experiencing, downloads, etc. I kind of have a list of what I want to talk about, but at the same time this video is not rehearsed. I'm really just going off of what is going to flow. So hopefully that makes sense. But without any more disclaimers, let's just get right into today's video. So today we are on episode 3 of Growing Through Christ, and I want to make a video to my future self. This morning I was doing my devotionals and I'm in the book of Esther and I was reading chapter 9. And in this chapter, it talks about how Mordecai not only grows in power, grows in authority, but this is when the Jews will take vengeance over their enemies. Because if we know anything about the book of Esther, we know that Haman had made a decree to kill all Jews. Fast forward, Esther, she, approaches the king and lets the king know, like, hey, Haman, he has made this decree to kill me and my people. And of course, the king is angry. He's like, what? They kill Haman in the process, and a new decree is made that the Jews will get revenge on their enemies. So anybody that was trying to kill or harm the Jews, a year from the day the decree was pretty much printed out and sent, the Jews would take vengeance. And so fast forward, that year has now come. And not only has that year come, but throughout that year, Mordecai, the same man that Haman was trying to kill because he wouldn't bow down to him, has now taken over Haman's position and has become like the second highest, right after the king. And this stood out to me. Number one, because I am going through a season in my life where I am choosing to stand by faith. Here you have Mordecai, who, despite everybody else bowing down to Haman, despite everybody else saying, just do it, like just bow down to him, you're making your life harder than it needs to be, Mordecai was firm on his faith. He was like, listen, I don't care what Haman or who Haman thinks he is. I don't care what he's going to do to me. I'm going to stand firm in my faith and I'm not going to bow down to him. And that reminds me of my current season. I had to make that choice to say, are you going to keep following the world, keep doing what the world is doing, which was me being in a relationship with a man, living together, fornicating, doing all of these sinful things? Or am I going to pick up my cross? Yes, it feels uncomfortable. Yes, it's like going against everything the world is doing, and live in true sacrifice for God, living what it means to truly follow God and not just do what's easy because it's convenient, but it's going to cost me everything. And by Mordecai standing firm in his faith and not, again, bowing down to Haman, not giving in, even after the decree was made, because Haman is furious. He's like, you will not bow down to me? Okay, bet. I'm going to make a decree not to just kill you, but to eliminate all the Jews. Even after this decree was made, Mordecai didn't run to Haman and say, oh my gosh, Haman, I'm so sorry. Like, please just rebuke the decree. I'll bow down to you. No, Mordecai pressed in on his faith even more. He went to Esther and he told her, like, who knows, maybe you were meant to be queen for a time like this. Like, who knows, this is the time for you to help your people. And so the enemy, I think he will try to use the heartbreak, he will try to use the discomfort that you're feeling, because leaving someone that you once loved is never easy. So of course, in the beginning, it's going to feel like the hardest thing you've ever done. And you can go back and forth with this idea of like, maybe I should give them another chance. Maybe I should make it work. But the truth of the matter is, I'd rather be uncomfortable for however many months and truly follow God versus settle and then be uncomfortable for years. So, again, going back to the book of Esther, chapter 9, fast forward, Mordecai is now in authority, and it talks about that he's well respected by so many, to the point where a lot of the the, what is it called? I'm trying to think of the word. You know what? Let me just go to the verse. How about that? Let's just go to the actual verse. I have my Bible here, and I thought I bookmarked it, but it must my bookmark must have came out. Oh, here it goes. Okay, so chapter 9. When we go to the verse, so chapter 9, verse 4, it says, "For Mordecai had been promoted in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all the province as he became more and more powerful." And then verse 5, we can even talk about where it says, "So the Jews went ahead on the appointed day and struck down their enemies with the sword. They killed and annihilated their enemies and did as they pleased with those who hated them. In the fortress of Susa itself, the Jews killed 500 men." So, again, I say all that to say, if we go back to the beginning of the book of Esther, we know that there was this decree made to kill all Jews. Mordecai, he's, in this moment of distress, right? And he's running to Queen Esther like, "Hey, we need your help." And all the Jews, of course, are in this mourning and like, what are we going to do? So we know that is when Queen Esther says, "Okay, fast for 3 days, don't eat anything, don't drink anything." And so the people are fasting because, again, this decree just came out that they're going to be killed in a year. And fast forward 1 year later, not only is the decree revoked and now they are getting revengeance on their enemies, but also Mordecai is now in the same position, the same power, the same authority of the very man that was trying to kill him. And a little bit deeper too, when we go back to scripture, the same gallows that Haman was trying to kill Mordecai became his own uh killing. Those gallows became the way in which he died. And so I say all to say, bringing it back to my life, I really resonated with those verses because, again, I'm in the beginning season of the breakup. Metaphorically speaking, the decree just has come out. And so my heart is still navigating, okay, what does it look like to mourn someone that's still alive? What it looks like to now turn from the ways in which I was doing, the sinful nature that I was living in for months at this point, and now pick up my cross. I'm in the uncomfortability part. For me, this part of my life is, again, metaphorically speaking, the decree has just been written. Haman has just sent out the decree. But fast forward, who's to say where my life can be a year from now? The businesses, the opportunities, the desires that now come to fruition that God knows I have, all because I decided to obey his word. I decided to remain faithful even in the difficult times. Even also in the book of Esther, I lost my train of thought. I was about to say something and then I totally forgot. Oh, yes. So even in the book of Esther, it was 2 months. So mind you, Haman made the decree. It said Haman made the decree April 17th. I have the NLT version, but it highlights April 17th. Fast forward June 25th. So like 2 months later, that is when a new decree will be posted and sent out to all of the Jews. However, the decree won't actually come to fruition until a year from then. But mind you, April 17th, Haman puts out the decree, right, to kill all the Jews. And then only 2 months later, a new decree is made because Queen Esther, she goes in front of the king despite possibly dying. And she tells him, "Hey, someone is out to kill my people." And the king is like, "Who?" And she's like, "It's Haman." And so this new decree is made. And so that even reminds me, like, wow, yes, technically the Jews didn't, they didn't kill or take revenges over their enemies until a year later, but it was 2 months after. Like, it wasn't a long time. And so sometimes you may feel as if, well, when is it going to happen for me? When is it going to happen for me? When is it going to happen for me? And it is a lot closer than you think. Things are turning around for you a lot closer, a lot quicker than you think. Again, going back to just Mordecai, for example, he was living his life, right? He didn't, and the Bible doesn't talk about him being this man of riches and had all this money. He was just living his life being faithful to God. And fast forward in the span of a couple months, he now becomes second highest, right below the king. And that just, again, gives me so much confidence to know, like, right now it feels so uncomfortable. Right now you don't know the when, the how, the what. But can you have faith? Can you remain faithful despite the right now? Because you don't know what God could do in a month from now. You don't know what God could do in 2 days from now, let alone a year from now. So can you remain faithful to Him? Can you remain hopeful and say, you know what? I don't know what the future may hold. And right now it does feel a little bit uncomfortable to follow God, but I'm going to do that. Again, Mordecai could have immediately just ran with fear and said, let me just go to Haman and let me just try to talk to him so that he doesn't kill the Jews. But he didn't. He doubled down and he said, you know what? I'm going to stand by faith and I'm going to go to Queen Esther. And even when he goes to Queen Esther, he says, you have a choice. You could help your people or you could choose not to. But don't think because you're in that palace that you would be spared. There will come a moment where you'll have to pay for not helping your people. We'll find a way through someone else, something else. But you would have to pay for not helping your people when they needed you. And I think that that is just like, again, such an encouragement to myself and maybe you watching this, like, right now it could feel so difficult to remain faithful, to trust in God. Again, going back to the metaphor, like right now it feels like you just received this decree that the enemy is trying to kill you and your people. Right now, maybe you just gone through the most hardest heartbreak of your life. Right now, maybe you got laid off. Right now, you're dealing with a loss of a parent. Like whatever it is, like right now you're in the thick of whatever, again, whatever you're dealing with. But can you still remain faithful to God? Can you still remain trusting in His word and being obedient? Because, like, again, it's so easy for me to go back to my ex. I know where he lives. I could easily just pull up on him. It could be so easy for me in the moments where I'm missing him to just say, you know what, I'm just going to try to make this work. Like, I miss him and I want to be with him. But those are the moments where I pray even harder and I say, no, Ashley, you know you deserve better. And right now, you still think about him, you still miss him. It's very fresh, the breakup. But is it worth where God is bringing you? Is it worth where you could be this time next year? And I'm like, every time I'm like, no, it's not worth it. So I sit in the uncomfortability. I pray. I give it to God nonetheless, but I remain faithful and knowing like my obedience is going to be the very thing that takes me to the next level I'm trying to go. But if I disobey God, I'm going to regret it. And so again, I highly recommend reading the book of Esther, the whole book, but really talking about chapter 9. I just love that chapter because it's just like such a motivational passage. I feel like as a reminder, like right now, it feels difficult. Right now, it feels like, oh my gosh, what is about to happen? But literally in the span of a couple months, in the span of a year, Mordecai takes over the same part of the palace, the same position of the very man that was trying to kill him. And then the Jews overall become, a new decree is made where the Jews then forced to take over their enemies. Like, again, it just shows what can happen in a year, but you have to be faithful and stand faithful on faith and say, okay, am I going to live in my sin because it feels comfortable and it feels easy and it's what everybody else is doing? Again, Mordecai could have just bowed down to Haman because that's what everybody else was doing. It was the easier choice. Or are you going to do the harder option, which is standing firm, obeying God, picking up your cross, and trusting that He has you every step of the way? And again, that is just my reminder for today and for you if you're going through a heartbreak like me, and you're navigating a new chapter in life. Maybe it's a heartbreak from a relationship, maybe it's getting laid off from a job, whatever it is where it feels so tough, like, God, I don't know what you're doing, like I'm confused. I just pray right now that you are encouraged and that you hanker in on your faith even more during this time and trust that God has you, He sees you, He knows you. And this time next year, your life is going to be dramatically different for the better. So we're going to wrap this video up. Oof, my bookmark fell. But if no one has told you, I'm here to tell you that I am so proud of you. You are doing enough, and I'll see you in the next one.